So I'm Amy Hailey, Supervisor for Library Services in Arlington, Virginia. And I love Sora, so I'm glad that you're here today so I can share my love of Sora with you. I do not work for Sora, but I love everything that they've brought to my district. So what is Sora? Sora is an ebook and audiobook application. It is web-based and an app. So our students have access to the app, but they also have access to the web browser that way. Do any of you have Sora already? All three of you. Awesome. Okay. So who am I? I was an elementary school librarian. I've been a classroom teacher. I worked in middle school. And so I've been in about 10 different schools. And again, now I'm a supervisor for library services. I'm a mom and a grandma. I have 2 cats. And my dream home does not have a kitchen. It just has a coffee maker. So that's a little bit about who I am and what my background is and talking with you about Sora today. So we're going to talk about Sora and diversity, equity, and inclusion, digital reading success, and then why I selected Sora as a district leader. All right, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is Sora and DEI. That'll be awesome. Thank you. All right, so Sora can provide for you a diversity analysis, and I really like the diversity analysis for a few reasons. The first one is that it lets me see how diverse my collection is, which also helps me to know, am I including all of the students that I have in my collection? And I also like to think about students that I don't yet have, but I might one day have. So I want to have a book that they would see themselves in if they were to walk in the door. Also in Arlington, we have 2 Spanish immersion programs. So it's important to me that we have books for the students in the Spanish immersion program. Also, we also have Spanish is the second language that we have in Arlington. So it's important that we have the Spanish language books for our native Spanish speakers. So these are a few screenshots from my diversity analysis. And the first one shows you by format. So ebooks and audiobooks, and then it has the different categories. So this is multicultural studies, LGBTQ, Asian, African American. So it goes on down the list, and I can see how many books do I have that are ebooks and how many books are audiobooks on that topic. And another thing that I like, because as a district leader, I'm buying books for elementary school, middle school, and high school. So I need to make sure I'm balanced and that I'm not making an Amy Hailey collection, but I'm making an Arlington Public Schools student collection. So this tells me a breakdown of books, again, by the categories, and it has juvenile, young adult, and adult. Again, in Arlington, we do have a lot of Spanish speakers. We also have Amharic, Arabic, and Mongolian as our other top languages. So it's important for me to make sure I'm bringing, we have chairs if you guys want to sit down, but then I'm buying materials for all of our students. So this is a breakdown of the languages that we've been purchasing for. And this helps me to see there's work to do in every area all the time, right? But this is an opportunity for me to look at buying more books. Yes, but this is something that you could ask your point of contact at the central office to do for you. So this is a screenshot of what Sora looks like in case maybe you hadn't seen it before. This is the student or the patron facing side. So this is featuring our Hispanic Heritage Month collection. And then this is what all the collections look like. You can see that we have the all access comics in our collection and the magazines also. So we have those currently moved up to the top, but in Sora, I like that you can move them around. So one of the ways that collections help with our diversity is that we have a collection for titles specifically in Spanish. So if I'm a student who knows that I'm looking for a book in Spanish, sometimes it's for a class assignment or sometimes it's choice, depending on if they're in like a Spanish class, right? That could be an assignment. But so we have those in a collection. The audiobooks support our diverse learners. I love audiobooks also. As soon as I get in my car, my phone starts talking to me, right? The next book. So I love that it's automatically coming on. We can build collections around DEI for the different months that come up and folks that we want to celebrate. And I love making the collections because we can, I can't remember the Sora word for it. We can like hide it until we need it for the next year, turn them off and on. So these are our collections that we have created, but we don't have on at the moment because I don't know how many collections you want, at a time. So you can make them come in and out as needed. So I love that I don't have to every year make a new Hispanic Heritage Month collection. I can just add to it and then keep it until I need to turn it back on. That's a great question. The collections are made in Marketplace, and I'll show you a screenshot of that as well. So with the DEI theme, this is another screenshot from the Sora patron view. So in the filters, you can select your language. And if you change it to French, for example, oh, that's okay. That might be me having them out of order. So you can change it to French, and I'll show you what that looks like in a different screenshot coming up. And then settings is at the top. We also might call that, if you're in elementary school, the hamburger. And you can change it to the dyslexic font. And you can also change, let me go back. In the previous language, it was searching for books in different languages. And this one, the language is, if I'm reading in Spanish, then the template will be in Spanish. And then this is what that looks like. So you can see, and what I'm calling the template is like the surrounding, right, is in Spanish, but the actual book content in the book itself is still in English. So this is Marketplace. So this is where I go to curate my collections, and this is where I can build them and then turn them on and turn them off, and I can move them up and down on my Sora slide for what my students see. So, and again, this is just a screenshot. This was October comic sales, but by the time you jump in, there might be something different there. So in the DEI theme for Sora in the Marketplace, if you go to Featured and then More List, there are two places here that speak to me a lot on this topic. One is diverse reading, but the other one that I've used frequently to help build the Spanish collection that I recently purchased is in the languages and learning. So if you go into the languages and learning, I don't know if I took a screenshot of that, no. Then it has many languages, and then it has collections that are built. So I was able to go into the languages and learning and then click Spanish, and it had titles in Spanish juvenile, titles in Spanish YA, and that was really helpful for me to see what did I want to add to my collection. And what was interesting is that I bought like a lot of Dork Diary and a lot of popular titles, and students were searching, and they're like, oh, we want Dork Diary, but this one is in Spanish. Do we have it in English? So now I'm going back to buy some of the titles that I had purchased in Spanish in English. So that's been helpful for all of our students as well. Okay, so Sora has been is huge in helping to make digital reading successful with our students. And this is some data that we have from this is district level data. And you can see that we have Sora at the top. In 2018, 2019, we had 220 checkouts across the whole district for Sora. This past year, what is your specific title? Account executive came up and helped talk with all of my librarians that were interested about Sora, and you can see that it really took off. So this year we are doing fantastic, and this is compared to our vendor 1 data and our vendor 2 data. You can see that this vendor was more popular, and Sora is just about to have more readers than the very popular vendor that we had before. So if this other vendor was so popular, why are we switching? One of the things that I love about Sora that helps to make it successful is that we can have these magazines that are embedded. They are multi-user simultaneous. So I tell librarians and teachers, if there's an article that you want all of your students to read at the same time, they can just go into Sora and pull it up. It's right there for everybody. And we have also the all access comics. Again, those are multi-user simultaneous. So I don't have to worry about, did I buy enough copies? Can I afford enough copies? It's just right there. So if I can't buy enough copies, there's a feature called cost per circ, and my account executive talked with me about this for like a year because I was super nervous to use it because I didn't know if my accounting department, how they were going to feel about it. So basically what I did is I said, okay, I'll give you $300 this month, I put some books in like a bucket that can be looked at cost per circ. So that $300 gets deducted every time a student opens the book. Any money that's left over at the end of the time period that I gave doesn't go to Sora. It stays in my account. So you're only paying for what's used, because I don't know about at your schools, but at my school, like I cannot keep up with the babysitters clubs. They're like over 100 holds on every title. And so that really helped get the holds down, and now they're back up again. So cost per circ is a very useful feature because we want the kids to get the books, right? So that was helpful. And the other was just building the collections that the students, the collections for the books that students are looking for. So our Spanish for elementary school titles are really helpful for helping direct students to what they might be looking for. The ease of access. This is the #1 reason I originally went to Sora. You can use Sora and not spend any money. You can connect to your public libraries. If you sign a form and they sign a form, your students can access the public library books, but they don't get all the books. They get the books that are at the age level that they are in, right? So if they're a kindergartner, they don't have access to the adult titles. They're getting the elementary or the juvenile titles. So that was my '1 selling feature. And then I got into Sora and I was like, hey, this is working out really great. So now actually I am spending money, a lot of money with Sora, but you don't have to, which is why I love it. All right. So why I selected Sora as a district leader. Okay, so again, our account executive has been up a couple of times to help with trainings, which is awesome because I can answer the questions, but this is the first resource that I purchased as a supervisor that I never used as a librarian. So I'm like learning with my librarian. So they're asking questions and I'm kind of like, account executive, and she's right there to help me. And the rest of the team are as well. I have with my contacts, I have an account executive, a librarian, and a tech support. And I usually email all three every time because I think I probably know who's going to do the thing that I'm asking, but I don't always know. So I feel like I'm in their inbox multiple times a day. All right, go back. Sorry. All right. So the in-person training has been invaluable to helping make Sora successful. One of our other vendors, we can buy graphic novels from them, but the load time is really slow. And we know that our students want things before they were supposed to happen. So Sora has a much faster graphic novel load time. With one of my vendors, it takes, with ebooks and audiobooks, it takes at the district level about 2 months to get those resources. With another vendor at the district level, it takes about 2 weeks to get those resources. With Sora, if I place an order in the morning, usually the books are available for students by that afternoon. So that's a game changer for me and my students, especially when a librarian's like, oh, I was hoping to use this book tomorrow. And if I buy it today, I can use it tomorrow. That's awesome. As the supervisor, I put out information in the weekly letters about Sora. My account executive sends a letter to me with Sora information, so I can just send that information on to my librarians. So she is making it easy for me to help them learn about what Sora offers, what the sales are that are coming up, because Sora does have sales. My other vendors don't have sales. So that's also helpful. So just being able to let people know in a weekly letter. And then this is another thing that's super important to me, is the ability to weed titles in Sora. One of my vendors does not currently let me do that. So a previous supervisor in 2013 bought a lot of nonfiction books that at the time were very current. We are 10 years later. And so those books are no longer not current, but they have now bad information. But I can't get rid of those titles because that vendor won't let me. But with Sora, I can go in and delete a title. So for example, I bought A Keepers of the Lost City, like book 5 in German. And I knew that if my kids were going to see that book, it would just be confusing for them, right? So I was able to go in and say, okay, I'm going to hide this for now. And maybe next year I'll go back and buy 1 through 4 and then 6, 7, or 8 or whatever to make the collection complete. But you can weed your titles, which I think is important because we all know how it's important to weed the print shelves, and those books are in our faces, so it's easier to do. But these digital resources aren't not in our faces as much, so sometimes we forget. but we need to also do that, and Sora makes that possible. All right, that was a lot of information in a very quick amount of time. What questions might you have? I don't have any information about the student dashboard. And it's important to me that my students feel comfortable accessing materials, knowing that they are the ones with that information. So when I go into Marketplace, can you go back to the Marketplace screen? So Sora really, for me, is in two parts. It's the patron-facing Sora app or web browser version. And then you have Marketplace, and Marketplace is Overdrive, like all of Overdrive. And then I just type in the title that I want. You can shop by different purchase and lending models. So this is where I go if I'm going to do that cost per cert, because I can't keep up with the Babysitters Club. And then in Insights is where I have like district level information about how many holds there are, how many books have been checked out this month. So this is where I build my carts. You can see I have a Dork Diaries right now for about $1,400 because this is where the students were like, we want the Dork Diaries also. I'm like, okay. So you build your carts, and then your carts get purchased either depending on how your district works, either at district level or at the school level. Are there any other questions? Oh, a drawing.